Hey, you guys, here we are back once again.
Yep.
Talking about another movie. I think you're going into the next person's video.
I'm in the other video? All right, I'm going to get back in this
You're in the next. Get back in this video.
Yeah, well, here, move that. Well, hold on. Is that one? Okay, and that one's moving you off. The camera moved.
No, it didn't.
Spock's in the right spot.
Yeah.
He didn't move, did he?
No.
You're not walking around on me, are you? Okay,
Spock's like moving around.
Yeah, everybody's coming
He's trying to get out. He's trying to get into the next video.
Zach is pissed because he missed the fucking haunting stream last night. That's his favorite episode. You missed it, man.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You missed it.
I didn't know that was your favorite.
He got to see it recorded, so. Yeah, but we're having fun with the haunting episodes.
Yeah, we are having fun.
Glad we brought that back.
Yeah, those are super, super fun.
Yeah.
Those are super fun.
Shit, I'd even do another one. I don't give a shit. I'd do two that week.
Somebody said, and this was actually a good idea. They said, oh, you should do like a Wednesday night show, like a main show about like just generally like haunted pubs and bars.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, that is a good idea. So I actually put it in the Patreon poll, like that's going up on Friday. So we'll see if it wins. I don't know if it will or not. The show that we're doing tomorrow is actually John Haig, the acid bath murderer.
Oh, okay,
like in the 1940s. Yeah.
Oh, 40s?
Yeah.
He's got the barrels?
Yeah, he's a British guy, yeah.
Oh, okay. There was a couple of them that were like that then.
Yeah, there's more. That's scary. Yeah. There's more than one acid bath murderer.
Yeah, there's a couple of those. Yeah, those motherfuckers are weird. Well, I don't really understand the acid, but I guess they're just not good with... They don't have field skills.
Well, they thought that it would just dissolve the body completely and then there wouldn't be... Well, they thought that. That's why they did it. Well, like I said, we'll save it for tomorrow because that's like tomorrow's show.
Okay, yeah.
So we can talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so the movie we're talking about today, I think we brought this up yesterday, but Louis sent us this beautiful steel book of Brian De Palma's The Untouchables from 1987.
It's a steel book 4K.
Look at that cover. I love that cover. That's
and guess
awesome.
What? We can't play it.
Yeah.
Xbox One doesn't seem to play 4K. I don't know if there's a like special app that I can download.
There might be, but I don't know. You might have to have a 4K TV though.
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't Yeah, it was on HBO Max. Yeah,
Max. That's what.
So we watched that last night, and I actually had you ever seen it?
Oh yeah, I think I'd seen this twice already, but it was like back in '87.
Yeah, I think I saw it back in the '80s or the early '90s.
I liked it back then.
Yeah, I did too.
As a kid, your taste isn't that good. You know what I mean? Well, you know when something's good, but you don't realize why it's good. And watching this shit again for the second time as an adult that has a lot better taste in things and pays attention more closely. Brian De Palma is off the fucking chain in this. He's off the fucking chain.
I mean, this is visually just a gorgeous movie. I mean, you could probably say that about every Brian De Palma movie because that's kind of his thing. But
the shot composition and everything is fucking magnificent. And the storytelling is great. And it transports you back into the 30s. I mean, you believe you're there. They will show long shots of fucking long streets. And you see those old fucking cars going all the way down. And I don't know how... And they were moving.
You know, I mean, they did shoot it in Chicago, so it's not like... Because I was watching it, and because Brian De Palma's stuff is usually like so stylized, for a second, I was like, is this whole thing like one big set? Because it almost looked like it was a big set. But when I looked it up, they said no, they actually did film it like on location. Like some of the stuff wasn't Chicago, like some of the like other locations they had to like fill in other places. But most of the shit around the streets and everything like that was absolutely filmed in Chicago. So I thought that was like kind of cool actually. Yeah,
and all the guns were period accurate with the exception of one shot. You know, I'm a stickler on things, and I got to go back and check the dates. But remember, there's a famous scene where Elliot Ness is trying to save a baby carriage and goes through a gunfight at the same time. At the very end, the bookie that they're trying to capture is being held hostage by one of the gangsters. And if you look at the side, when that gangster's pointing that gun at his head, it appears to be, at first glance, a 1911 45 auto. But you see it has an external extractor, which means it's a Star Model B or a Spanish pistol, kind of like a what was the name of that thing that they had? Not a Star. I forgot what it was. I'd have to fucking. I got to jog my memory again. But that was not an American pistol. Now I don't know if those existed in the early 30s. I know they did in the late 30s, but I don't know if they existed in the early 30s. But close. We'll see. I got to double check on that shit. But that wasn't in 1911. That was a Star, or what was that damn fucking? It was a copy of a Colt 1911 that the Yama, or some people call it Llamas. That's what it is. Either the correct pronunciation is a Yama. It was either a Yama or a Star, which were both good, but that wasn't an American. I'm not sure why he would have that. Okay, but anyway, besides that, this movie is fucking perfect.
Several people pointed out what I was going to say when you were talking about that last scene with the baby carriage, like in Union Station, everything like that. And several people have already pointed out before I had a chance to say anything, is that scene is actually an homage to the 1920s film Battleship Potemkin, which also had like the woman and the baby and all that kind of stuff. So it is actually. Now let's clear out the elephant in the room, which is that this movie. Students, if you ever have to write like a report about Al Capone and Elliot Ness and stuff like that, don't watch this movie and write a report about it, because pretty much accurate. Nothing in this movie is accurate.
It's an action movie.
So you're gonna get in big trouble if you actually kind of like, other than some of the characters being the same, like some of this stuff is accurate, but most of it is absolutely not. Like most of it like absolutely did not happen. So I'm just saying that right now. But I mean, it's a good movie besides that. I mean, and it's written by David Mamet, obviously. He did, probably you know him from Glengarry Glen Ross, but he's written like fuck tons of other stuff too. So this has like a lot of that great, like real pithy like dialogue. And I had forgotten, because I hadn't seen this movie in such a long time, I had forgotten how many iconic lines were in this movie. Like all the stuff about, you know, bringing a knife to a gunfight, and stuff about, you know, I want him dead, I want his family dead, I want his house burned to the ground. Like, at that, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was totally from this movie. And, you know, you send one of his to the hospital, or he sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue, all that kind of stuff. So all those, like, really, really famous lines are from this movie, which I had actually, like, forgotten because I hadn't seen it for such a long time. My favorite line in this, I think, is the part at the end where he throws that dude off the building. And then, like, the dude crashes through the car, and then, like, he comes in, and they're like, hey, where's Needy? Because that was the guy, you know, Frank Nitti, or whatever his name is. And he's like, he's in the car. And I was just kind of like, that was pretty great. Now, like I said, that is also totally inaccurate. That dude was not murdered by Eliot Ness. Actually, he wasn't murdered at all. He actually committed suicide 12 years, like, after Al Capone went to prison. And he actually, like, ran the Chicago outfit, I think, for, like, a little while. So, like I said, very, very inaccurate. But as long as you're not going into it hoping that it's going to be, like, a historically accurate thing. Because if you're really, like, want to be nitpicky about it, Eliot Ness didn't really have hardly anything to do with bringing down Al Capone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was almost all that accountant guy, which the accountant guy in this movie is loosely based on a real guy, but that's not like the same guy. Like, he has a different name and everything, but that guy spent like years and years and years, like him and his team, like combing through all of the financial records, you know, to get him and everything like that. So it wasn't really Eliot Ness and the Untouchables and all that stuff too much that was like all up in there.
They're asking me what my drink is. That's damn diet root beer. Publix
or maybe they were asking what mine is too.
He asked if it was iced tea.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe they're talking about you.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Mine is vodka and
berry.
And berry juice. Tropical berry something.
I went and checked. I was correct. Many of the guns in the film, including the one I talked about, were Star Model Bs. And they used them. They used them in the action sequences because the Star Model B was 9mm, and they worked better with blanks than the 45s. So that's why. The Star Model B didn't come out until 1972, or in the 70s maybe, around that time. So I was right, but it's okay. It's okay, close. And then in some of the other shots, establishing shots, they use 1911s. But in this movie, when they're doing shootouts, they're Star Model Bs usually, according to the Internet database.
Zach says, who should have gotten the supporting actor award for this movie more, Sean Connery or Robert De Niro? Now, spoiler alert, Sean Connery did get the Best Supporting Actor Oscar this year for this movie, even though he did get criticized a lot for, they're like, dude, he's supposed to be like an Irish American, but he very clearly has a very thick Scottish accent, which... is a completely different accent than
Americans didn't know
than an American.
Yeah.
I was like, Well, I'm just kind of saying, like, it didn't bother me though. Honestly, I don't know. I really liked Sean Connery in this. Like, I thought he gave like the movie a lot of heart.
In the 30s, though, you know what though? You're right. In the 30s, the Scottish had been lumped in with the damn Irish anyway. Most of the time,
There's like, what's the
they would have known any difference really.
Yeah, that's why it didn't bother me that much.
Right.
Like, I'm just saying, like, even at the time, like in 1987, everybody was like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Scots, Welsh, Irish, they would have called you all mixed back then. They wouldn't have differentiated.
I do like De Niro in this, though.
Yeah.
I know, I have seen some, like, reviews that said, oh, he was kind of, like, a little over the top, where he was, like, a cartoon character, but, I mean, Al Capone was kind of like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And honestly, like, he wasn't really in it that much, to be honest. Like, for being, like, Al Capone, he's kind of like... But I kind of like that they did that. They almost kind of, like, kept him on the fringes of the action, like, all the time. Like, he was almost, like, overseeing everything.
It was because he's protected.
Yeah, that too.
Living
like,
in a
that too.
fantastic hotel and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember. I mean, I remember reading a lot about him. I don't know if he lived in that much opulence. I think he tried to keep that stuff down a little bit, trying to.
I think he did live in that hotel though, where they shot that.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, he wasn't that opulent. He was trying to pass himself off as a guy that didn't make that much money. But well, I don't know though. It's hard to say. I know he ate pizza all the time. There was a pizza place he constantly went to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one scene though, you know, the one scene like after Elliot Ness and the Untouchables, like they like raid the warehouse like looking for the booze, right?
Yeah.
And the one guy, I guess, that was responsible for that, and then he has like this big dinner party, and you know, Al Capone's being all like magnanimous and stuff, and then he picks up a bat and like just like beats the shit out of that guy, like beats him to death. Well, no, something like that did happen, but I think it was actually two guys. It didn't have anything to do with the raid, I don't think, but
he was known for doing that even before he was real famous and rich.
Yeah,
beating a dude up with a baseball bat, but that happened out in the middle of the street, and I think it had something to do with his sister. If I remember correctly, like somebody had insulted his sister and he beat the shit out of him with a baseball bat.
I'm not real sure, but the thing about one of the things that they kind of go into a lot in this movie that is, like I said, a little bit inaccurate is that Al Capone generally tried to keep violence against innocent people and against cops and stuff like that, like to an absolute minimum, just because he thought that it would bring too much heat down on them, it was bad for business, all this other kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, he would absolutely like fuck up another gangster, that's, you know, that's fine, but
we're in the game.
Like, yeah, the scene where, like, in this one, that's the scene that gets Elliot Ness like involved in the whole thing, where the guy comes and like blows up that bar or whatever, and like that little girl gets blown up.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
No, I think some of them got killed in fucking drive-bys, though. I think a kid got killed. Didn't that right? I think that was right. I think that brought in a lot of the NFA and the gun control acts. Is because some kids got caught in a crossfire of a drive-by with in the back seat were two guys shooting Thompson submachine guns.
Yeah, I mean that might have happened. I'm just saying the stuff from the movie that was like not. But what actually brought down like the federal thing was actually the St. Valentine's Day massacre.
Yeah,
that's kind of what brought a lot of attention to it, where they just lined all those dudes up against the wall.
Yeah, that was like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right,
there was a bunch of other stuff that had been happening.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that the little girl like getting blown up, that didn't really happen. And the thing about it too was that, like I said, it's just as long as you kind of like think of it as like a historical like fiction that has some real people in it, but then like kind of goes off on fanciful directions just to make like a good story, then I think it's actually like a really great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
Like I said, just don't expect it to be historically accurate. Cause
no, they're just trying to make a movie that's kind of like The Godfather.
Yeah.
You know, where The Godfather was just kind of vaguely based on kind of the concept of an Italian crime family. It's the same thing. They just threw in some historical characters in there to try to give it more credibility and like you're going on a damn adventure. You know, and you got Sean Connery basically being the damn Obi-Wan Kenobi, teaching the young new cops how to be. They're not really cops though, they're just agents. You know, it's a good flick.
He's a treasury agent. Elliot Ness is.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like he becomes. I think in the movie, the catalyst for Elliot Ness, wanting to get Al Capone is the little girl getting blown up in the bombing.
Yeah.
Right. Which Al Capone supposedly was behind. So in the movie, they make it that, and they kind of make a big deal about this, that Elliot Ness is like married and has a kid. Now, he was married. I don't think he had a kid. I think he had a kid, but later. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have a kid at this point, because I think he'd only been married for for not very long of a time. But they wanted to like kind of give him like a personal reason, because I think one of the things that they were going for when Brian De Palma and David Mamet and them were like working on this movie was, I mean, obviously they had made like the TV series with Robert Stack, The Untouchables, and they made him like a very stoic tough guy character in that one, and they said, well, we wanted him to be more like a human, like a vulnerable family man type of guy, because they thought that would be more interesting. Now, like I said, Kevin Costner's character, like playing Elliot Ness in this, he is kind of like Elliot Ness was. They absolutely did say that Elliot Ness was a Boy Scout, and that they said that the shit about like him like not drinking and stuff like that was bullshit. Like, he was actually a big drinker, but he actually was one of the guys that like wouldn't take bribes. You know what I mean? So he was like actually like pretty honorable and like above the level.
There's kind of a untold moral to this whole story. These federal agencies, like the IRS and again the Treasury departments and NFA and FBI, they all came from this kind of era, and after, some of it after World War II. And it was always a federal agency trying to do something because a state wouldn't do it. A state government wouldn't or couldn't do it. And in this case, it was Prohibition. The federal government's trying to enforce Prohibition on states that don't really want it.
I kind of felt like most states didn't want it. Like, nobody wanted it. Right. It was like super unpopular.
So then the feds come in and go, you damn state governments are corrupt as hell. You're in bed with all these gangsters, so we're going to step over you and enforce all this on you. Totally undemocratic. Because Prohibition itself was federal. Full of bullshit. Okay, it was basically a small minority of people enforced a moral opinion on the whole fucking country. All right, so it was kind of like a same old thing, imperial power. And they said, well, we're clean and y'all are dirty. You're gonna listen to us. That shit went over like a fart in a spacesuit. Prohibition didn't work. None of that shit works. And then eventually, the corruption eventually makes its way to the fucking imperial level, and then the federal government is enforcing corrupt and evil rules on states, which it's a universal. It happened in Rome. It happens in China. It's just, you do not want a centralized power. It always ends up being bad, which runs the cycle of this shit. You gotta fucking take apart an empire that's abusing its people and oppressing them. It's better to let locals handle their own fucking business. Let them decide that shit.
The thing about this, though, I mean, it does kind of go... They do, like, exaggerate the corruption. I'm not saying that Chicago wasn't corrupt at this time, because it absolutely was. And a lot of higher-ups were on the take. Because, like I said, it wasn't
so much... They didn't want it.
Well, it wasn't so much that Al Capone, was violent toward... Because in this movie, they showed him, like, actually killing, like, he killed the accountant, and he killed, like, us, which didn't happen in real life. But normally, like, he wouldn't do that kind of thing. Because, obviously, like, bribes worked better. Yeah. But some of the stuff they show in this movie, like the police, what was he, like the police commissioner or the police chief, like being on the take, that actually wasn't true. No. So they did actually like exaggerate a lot of the corruption that was going on. It was corrupt, but not as corrupt as they showed in the movie. Yeah. Although the thing about,
on where you were talking
I kind of laughed because the scene at the end where Al Capone is actually like in the courtroom. And he's they got him on tax evasion. I think everybody like pretty much knows that because that was all they could get him on because he was so well protected in other ways. They had to like find the chink in the armor. So he's in the courtroom at the end And he's all like, man, I got this, you know what I mean? Because he already knows that he's paid off all the jurors, right? And then the judge comes out and says, hey, I'm going to switch the juries. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, you can't do that. Like, not at the end of the trial. Now, so I looked it up. This did happen, but not at the end of the trial. What ended up happening was that the judge knew ahead of time that the jurors had been paid off. So at the beginning of the trial, he said, oh, guess what? I'm bringing in this other jury from over here, because he knew that that's what was going on. Because I was like, I'm pretty sure that once the trial's over, you can't just like switch juries out, because it's like the jury that came in are just like, what the fuck's going on? We didn't hear any of the evidence or anything. So, but it did happen, like the jury switcheroo, but it was just like at the beginning of the trial and not the end. So I wanted to like get into that a little bit too, but you know, that's what I'm saying. So, honestly, I had a really good time with this movie. This movie, even though, like I said, it's not historically accurate, but it is like really, really entertaining.
Yeah.
It's really stylish.
Real
it's
artistic.
Like, it's like really, really cool to look at. Like a lot of the scenes, like Zach was bringing up that scene with Sean Connery and Kevin Costner in the church. Like, it was kind of like, and we mentioned this a little bit when we were talking about Blowout the other day, like with that shot of like John Travolta like in the foreground and then like all the stuff going on in the background. He had kind of a scene like that. He didn't do any split screen in this though, but he had a scene kind of like that where someone was in the foreground and in the background. It was like a really, really beautiful shot. And like I said, I
think split screen would have taken you out of this movie.
Yeah, I think he made the wise decision to not have that in this one. It didn't. Well, it didn't really call for it, because I know that Brian De Palma kind of uses split screen a lot, but I think that most of the time that he uses it, like he used it in Blowout and Sisters and Carrie. Well, I think he uses it when he wants like two things going on at once. It's like, oh, here's somebody coming up the stairs, and here's somebody like trying to clean up a body or something like that. So it's like a tension building device.
The way I interpret it is that the movie was supposed to have a 1930s motif. It's trying to put you into a period. So it's trying to be very artistic. The shot composition is kind of symmetric in a way, almost kind of like trying to make everything feel Art Deco, but modern. Because Art Deco was modern when it came out. Yeah. You know,
I still love Art Deco and Art Nouveau. I love those looks.
Right.
Actually.
So doing a split screen, that's 70s. That would take you out of it. So they're trying to give you a very, I don't want to say formal and austere, but still action packed. It's trying to feel crisp and clean like Art Deco, and I want to say weird, like conservatively shot. You know, nothing high tech, nothing. But it is. It's hiding the fact that it's high tech. It's
I know what you're saying.
It's trying to look very sophisticated.
I get what you're saying.
Which it works. It works to me. Kind of like the way a monument is supposed to look monumental. You know, the way Art Deco is. And I think he fucking achieved it. Hell yeah. The only thing that took me out was that Star Model B. But I'm an expert. I looked at that and went, that's not a 19.
Yeah, most people wouldn't.
Most people wouldn't notice it.
I didn't notice, and I'm sure like 99% of people.
Yeah, the technical reason is that the Star Model Bs works better with blanks.
You're like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and whenever he's like a historical movie, and he's just like, that's not what the stars looked like on that particular day. And he's like, it's like nobody would notice, but like 0.0.
Those are from the 70s.
You know,
that wouldn't be in the 30s. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right. But you know what? I had forgotten how gory this movie is.
Yeah.
I mean, particularly the scene
it's a mainstream movie.
Particularly the scene where the accountant and the snitch get killed in the elevator by Billy. That was Billy Drago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Playing that guy, and they kill the guy and then like write "touchable" like on the wall in the blood, and it just looks like a fucking slasher movie. And I was just like, damn, I forgot how fucking gory.
Well, I think it's the right decision. The idea was that they weren't glorifying fucking violence. This was fucking murder. These hits, you know, you're murdering people, and people are kind of begging before they get shot. No, boom, you know.
Yeah. So they're showing it more like it really is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, because the guy's going to go into denial. No, don't kill me, don't kill. You know, but there's no time. You're going to get killed. That's what they were doing. This is warfare. You know, it's gang warfare.
One thing I did like about this movie is that it doesn't. I want to say it doesn't. I know this might be a weird thing to say, but it doesn't really glamorize the gangster lifestyle, because a lot of gangster movies do, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't, because that's, you know, if you want to make your movie like that, that's fine, but this doesn't really like glamorize it. It shows Al Capone, and he's glamorous and everything like that, but it kind of shows how, you know, the media and everything like that are very like, you know, like sycophantic like about him, and it's just kind of like, and he's just kind of like, I mean, in the movie he's like just this murderous dick, but it's like everybody loves him because he's just like funny and all this other kind of shit. So
they let you know he's a slime ball.
Yeah. And then now I will say that I think it like makes like overtly heroic out of the character of like Elliot Ness, who, like I said, was just a flawed human being. So it almost kind of like made him like saintly, but I don't know. So maybe that was like a good decision, because I did like, you know, he was like really saintly, and he didn't really want to kill anybody, and he didn't want to do anything. But then at the end, like when that one guy, Billy Drago's character, was like, you know, making fun of the guy that he killed, like his friend that he killed, and he's just like, yeah, I'm throwing your fucking ass out the building.
No, De Palma did the right thing with it. He's trying to tell an epic tale of good versus evil. He doesn't want any gray in it. And it was portrayed as...
It is very, very black and white.
Right. And that's a strong suit in telling the stories. Because even though Elliot Ness pushed that dude off the fucking building, he deserved it.
I mean,
that's what the movie says. The movie says, yeah, he broke the law, but that was the right thing to do. That fucker had to go.
He's in the car.
Yeah.
I laughed out loud when he said it.
And he falls in the car. What is he? He's in the car.
He's in the car. So, that was my favorite line in the movie.
De Palma's trying to say that the legal system has limits, especially in a place like Chicago. In that situation, it was corrupt, so he would have got off. So you had to go outside the law to get that one. That particular guy. Yeah. That particular guy was a high level torpedo, which is an assassin.
Well, and they knew that he had killed
a bunch
the
of
accountant guy, and they knew that he had killed the snitch guy that they were going to get to like testify.
Right, and he was so in with the mayor and had bribed so many people and was so well connected, he'd walk if you brought him into court.
Yeah, so it's just like
he had to go.
Gonna push.
So with that particular offender, you had to go outside the law to get him.
I mean, I feel like in the context of the movie, I feel like they were almost leaning toward Elliot Ness was not going to kill that dude. He probably wouldn't have killed that dude if that dude hadn't started like taunting him.
Yeah, he said, I killed your buddy. And
about how like he died like a pig or something like that. I'm just kind of like, dude,
he says,
bye.
You're gonna fucking burn for it.
And then he said, did he sound like that?
Yeah. And he says, you're going to go to prison for it. He goes, nope, I'll walk.
And he probably would have.
And he would have.
He probably would
have. That's what tipped him over.
Yeah,
because I'll walk.
And like I said, I don't think anybody would blame the guy for doing that. Like I said, that didn't happen in real life.
Well, you're
like,
in a moral conundrum.
Yeah.
This is what De Palma's trying to show you is that there are some criminals that are so well connected and so embedded into the system that they're above the law. So what do you do to bring justice? You can't take him to the courts because they won't be justice. So in that particular case, you had to do it yourself, the old-fashioned way.
I mean, I'm not going to shit on Elliot Ness. I would have done the same thing.
That's what they were doing.
You're going to be a douche up here in my face like that? Yeah, I'm going to push your ass right off of that fucking building.
He was so high level.
And not feel bad about it either.
He was such a high-level gangster that you had to get him on the gangster side, not on the
That was a great
side.
scene, by the way. Right. I really did like that.
Right.
They were talking about what?
It's my understanding that a lot of times what happened in this places like New Orleans and stuff still goes down, and probably Detroit too, is that if the cops want some dudes gone, they can't get them, so they leverage another criminal to get him. That's one way that they could do it. Make a deal with another criminal to take that guy out.
That seems like a good... I mean...
CIA and FBI. And
I mean, like I said, that kind of seems like a win-win situation.
Yeah, they're like, we know you did this, but we got a problem. This guy's fucking dangerous. If you fucking take care of that,
we're just gonna like look over here while that happens.
Yeah, we know you.
Hey, he's gonna be at this spot.
Right, and we know you got motive. We know what he did to you last year. That type of shit. And then they just get that guy to do it.
Like I said, that seems like a good way to go about things, to be honest. I mean, if it gets to that situation.
Tell you right where he is and everything. We know right where he is. But I don't think that none of that's official.
Well, obviously, you'd have to keep that on the down low.
That's somebody on the beat that knows those streets might... Some detective that knows a bunch of shit and's got dirt on somebody, and might be slightly dirty. They'll take care of that shit, too. But De Palma did not want a story of gray in this one. He wanted a story of
this is not a morally gray.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it absolutely does not glamorize Al Capone or any of the gangsters. They're all shitheads and murderers, and the Untouchables are all honorable men. There are no... I mean, they're flawed like humans, but they don't have... There's no, like, moral ambiguity or moral grayness or anything like that. It's very, very much good versus evil. Which, like I said, it's not like real life, but it's a movie. It's just a good story, like, talking about good and evil.
De Palma's basically kind of doing what Milius would have done with a story like this. He would have made it an epic tale of good versus evil with just... monumental fucking firefights that fucking impossible shit happens, but it worked out good, like the Baby Carriage.
That was such a great scene. Right. I love that. Like with Andy Garcia, like at the end, like laying down there, like holding up the Baby Carriage with his leg and like shooting that motherfucker.
And what they are is they're kind of like a mythology. They're moral tales, what they are. It's a great movie. So, on par with, like moral tales that you find in fucking the first Conan movie, which is a Milius movie. That's what he's doing. It's good.
Yeah,
like when Giuseppe comes up with, he's using the name Stone. You know what I mean?
George Stone.
And fucking what's his name? What's that character's name that Sean Connery was playing? Sean Connery's going, what was your name before you changed?
Jimmy Malone.
Yeah, Malone. Yeah, Malone keeps pressing him. What was your name before you changed it?
And Ellis Island or whatever.
And he just keeps pressing him, trying to get him to blow to see what he would do. And he goes, I like him. Because he wanted somebody that would, believed more in the honor system. To make an honor-based person more than, say, like a legal-based person. Because he pulled a gun on another cop, threatened to kill him right there over that. But he goes, this guy has honor. I can trust him.
And he just pulled him out of the academy, right?
Pulled him right out of the academy. He was a brand new kid. And he was hot-headed and he had honor. And he goes, this is the guy we want. I says, I like how he handled that. And fucking then the dude, because you got the job. And the dude realized that the whole thing was a test. And they bonded over that. Kind of shit drill sergeants do.
I really did like I said, in real life, the Untouchables was like a whole bunch of dudes. It wasn't just like four guys, but I really did like the interaction between like all four of the actors. Someone was talking about Kevin Costner earlier. I have to say I've never been a huge fan of Kevin Costner. He's good in this, but
he's always bland.
He's very bland. He's always been... I think, like, I was reading something earlier that said, is he, like, the whitest actor of all time? Probably.
He can't even yell with any bass in his voice. It's like, dude, did you go through puberty? Put some bass in your voice.
He just always... And I'm sure he's, like, a nice person. Like, he never strikes me as anybody that gets, like, super excited about anything or, like, is, like, really, like, emotionally... He doesn't have much emotional range to his characters. And, admittedly, I haven't seen, like, a fuck ton of movies that he's been in, but he's never, like, terrible, but he's always kind of, like, just kind of, like, bland.
He's good. He's adequate.
But I think that maybe it works in this one, because Elliot Ness, like I said, is supposed to be, in the context of the movie,
to be bland.
He's supposed to be, like, this, very, very upright Boy Scout type of character.
They cast him correctly.
Now, he wasn't the first choice, though.
The least bland role he ever played was the fucking Aquaman in Waterworld. The guy who could breathe.
I still kind of want to see that again. Like, I remember seeing it the first time, like, wow, this is terrible.
He's got two great bad movies. Waterworld. It's like Mad Max on the ocean. And then the other one was fucking The Postman, which is another Mad Max kind of ripoff based on a book. Written by a fucking dude who's a fucking douche, but fucking it's like that. I listened to that dude. He was a guest on fucking one of the science programs I was on. Anyway, the dude's fucking weird, but he wrote that The Postman, and The Postman was kind of like Mad Max, but not really. But Costner did both of those roles pretty well.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of who those characters are supposed to be. when it came to grit and flavor, his best one would have been Waterworld. Because the dude he was playing was almost kind of a bad guy. But he redeems himself later on. He could breathe underwater, and he was a mutant. It was pretty neat.
Mango said he was great in Field of Dreams. Yeah, that was probably his best movie. I think a lot of people liked him in Bull Durham as well, but although it's been a long time since I've seen that. Zach says, I've seen Dances with Wolves, so at least I know Costner has a nice ass.
That wasn't a bad movie.
That was actually a pretty good movie.
That wasn't a bad movie. It's pretty good. But once again, bland.
Mango also says, and also No Way Out, a Kraken spy thriller. I don't think I've ever seen that, but I have seen a lot of people... Because I was reading something earlier, and a lot of people were talking about Kevin Costner's
Who said this?
Performance. Mango said that.
Okay.
And they said, no, he's really good in No Way Out. And I was like, well, probably I should see that then, because I don't think I've ever seen that movie. Unless I just saw it and forgot
Somebody
about
sends us a copy, we'll put it in line with the hard copies that we have. It goes to the top. Requests, man, we got shit. People sent us movies. We still got to do Godfather 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, we've done Godfather 1.
I remember Godfather 2 being good.
Well, Godfather 2 gets brought up a lot as being like one of the best sequels of all time.
Yeah, I remember it being fucking just like Mango says, cracking. That was a cracking sequel.
Zach said we should do Road to Perdition. Oh, I agree. That's a good movie too. Road to Perdition was really good. Yeah, so I was going to say that Kevin Costner was actually not the first choice. The first choice, and let's see how you feel about this. The first choice, I believe, that De Palma wanted was Don Johnson. And this was 87, so this was prime Miami Vice era. He might have worked. He might have worked. I actually kind of like Don Johnson.
Yeah,
and he like actually did some cool shit like later on too, like when he got a little bit older.
My favorite one of Don Johnson. Okay, I got it. I got the fucking Blu-ray. It's in public domain though, but you can buy copies of it at supposedly Blu-ray fucking quality on eBay. People were bootlegging them because it was public domain. It's called A Boy and His Dog. And it's a young...
That's right, I forgot, yeah.
My favorite Don Johnson movie. And Don Johnson...
He's good in that.
...is in a post-apocalyptic world. He's kind of like a Mad Max kind of character, but he's just this scumbag running around with this dog. And the dog is some kind of cybernetic police dog that used to be around, back... And it's evidently really ancient. It may not be a real dog. It's probably a robot dog. And it follows him around, and it's got all these abilities, and its abilities to sniff out females, women. That's what he's using it for. And he's raping and killing women.
Yep.
Don Johnson, yeah.
We reviewed that movie like a while back.
And he didn't think anything of it. Everybody else is doing it. And then he gets captured by some subterranean cult of survivors. It's just like something out of damn Fallout. If you like Fallout, see A Boy and His Dog. It's from the early 80s, I believe. And
might be 70s. I can't remember when the fuck that movie came out.
Yeah, and there's a damn subterranean cult captures him, and they've recreated like the 1950s Southern living, like on the farm. And they're doing it underneath the ground, in a cave. Neighborhoods and everything. They're having fucking picnics, and they've fucking abducted him to use him as breeding stock. And then it gets weird, man. It gets really weird. But it's a fucking great movie. Real low budget. Kind of well written. It has a lot of comedy in it. It's like a dark comedy. And it's got action. And you're like, what the fuck is this? That movie would never fly today. Because the hero is a fucking serial rapist and a murderer. All right? But he's like a savage. He doesn't fucking know either. He's got a bolt-action rifle.
I mean, the 70s were a weird time.
Yeah, it was a weird time. He's like a bad guy from the Mad Max universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so like I said, I think Don Johnson was the first choice. Other actors that they asked but couldn't do it or turned it down. Mickey Rourke. I don't know if that would have worked. Like I said, I love Mickey Rourke, but he seems like too much of a scumbag. I don't just as an actor. I don't know what he's like as a real person. But he seems like too much of a scumbag to play like somebody upright like Elliot Ness. They also asked Jeff Bridges. That might have worked. William Hurt also might have worked. Harrison Ford. And Michael Douglas, but they all turned it down. Then they also wanted Jack Nicholson, and actually they went, and I don't think that would have worked. I don't think that would have
when
worked.
you said Harrison Ford, this would probably work with Harrison Ford.
It probably would have. Yeah. I kind of, or William Hurt or Jeff Bridges, I think would have worked too, because you need somebody that has kind of like that all-American, everyman, good guy type of, you know what I mean?
Like he's not some motherfucker that you met in the university per se, but he's skilled. He's kind of an all-rounder, you know what I mean? Because that's really who Harrison Ford was. You called him to come fix your fucking cabinets. All right, that's how he got his. That's how George Lucas met him. You know, he was working on cabinets, but he could do a little bit of everything. And Lucas was impressed with him and put him in American Graffiti because he had an all-American, all-round kind of guy that you could trust him to maybe do anything, and maybe he might be able to do it. That's why Indiana Jones worked. There wasn't one thing about Indiana Jones that made those tales seem plausible. It was a bunch of little things about him. He was just kind of an all-round guy. And
you bought it.
You bought it.
Yeah.
And maybe he could actually pull this shit off. It wasn't that he was a great scholar or anything. That wasn't part. He was smart, but he could do a little bit of everything. He had a bullwhip. He could run. He could jump. He could shoot a pistol. He could fucking talk to women. He could talk to other scholars. He could intimidate people if he had to. He was just an all-round guy. A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It worked.
And
he was the Labrador Retriever of men. They could do a little bit of everything. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what you needed for this role.
Yeah.
To play Elliot Ness. You need somebody that it's like, it's not going to be silly if they're in a gunfight, but then you need somebody that's like, you know, smart enough to like outsmart gangsters and like all this other kind of stuff. So, and like I said, you need somebody that seems like, I don't want to go so far as to say saintly, but you need somebody that's like really, really like all-American, honorable,
like a little bit of purity.
So you need that kind of thing.
You're talking about almost a Chris Reeves quality. Chris Reeves probably could have been.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't think Mickey Rourke would have worked, and I don't think Michael Douglas would have worked, because they have a little bit of scumbag DNA in there.
Yeah.
Like a little bit. They just give off that kind of like, I'm a little bit of a bad guy. You can't really have that like in a role like this. In
every Chris Reeves movie, he gives off this kind of a weird masculine purity to him that made women want to have sex with him. And you always wondered whether or not this motherfucker was a virgin. Superman comes off as a virgin.
He does, absolutely.
Yeah. In
and
the
I'm
Superman
sure Christopher
movies.
Reeve was not a virgin at the time, but it's just kind of like, but he really did
Superman,
convey that.
Superman comes off as a virgin. That character comes off as a virgin. That's why he's the best Superman.
Yeah. Because he absolutely, like, I would, if you told me Superman was a virgin, I would absolutely buy that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Superman has never been laid. Because he didn't want to hurt that woman's feelings. You know what I'm talking about? Because he can't be with her.
Or blow her vagina out.
Or blow the vagina out. And even even the canon, the very last Superman, the fucking one about the new, I even liked that one. I fucking liked him. I didn't like 3, unfortunately. It was a little stale. Man, poor Richard Pryor, because he loved Superman movies, and he was upset with the way that one came out. Just not good. I had to go back and look. I couldn't finish it. I got to go see it again.
Yeah.
But these replacement Supermen that they have now in the fucking DC universe, man, that is not Superman.
Well, I mean, the thing about it,
that's not
Christopher Reeve.
Superman.
I mean, there was just some big shoes to fill. Yeah. There's never going to be another guy like that.
Yeah.
He had that, just everything
his look,
came together like exactly right. And like, and his, you know, performance was so iconic that everything's going to get compared to that, and everybody's going to fall short because they're not him.
I saw the first 2 Superman movies, 1 and 2, when I was a kid. In the theater when they came out. There was time in between. I'd grown a little bit in the second one. That first one, I felt like I saw Superman as a kid. Like, that's him. That was the impression I had. I saw Superman. I knew it wasn't real, but I had that feeling that I actually saw Superman. Because Chris Reeves pulled that role off so well. You know.
I mean, he just like embodies Superman to me.
Yeah.
Like
my mom and all her sisters and shit, you know what I mean? All my aunts wanting to fucking screw Chris Reeves. They just fucking loved him. He was a sex object for women.
I could see that.
Fucking loved him. Because he was like a virgin. Like a good looking, there was something magnetic about him.
Yeah, I get that.
Women wanted to.
Not exactly my type, but I can.
He was in those days.
He
was a man of those times. And he was very different from the men of those days.
I mean, he was just a really nice man.
Yeah.
He was a nice man.
Yeah.
And that's pretty sexy.
That time after time romance movies came out, like time after... it was Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time came out, and fucking women flooded to that movie.
Yep.
They fucking flooded it. The movie.
Damp panties everywhere.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid.
I haven't either. I wouldn't mind actually watching that again. I remember liking it.
It was a paranormal romance time travel movie.
Yeah, he was in man, what was that one, like that murder mystery that he was in that was good too? Shit.
I forgot.
That was also good. I saw that like a bunch of. I'm sure like somebody remembers.
He was in a bunch of good movies.
What was that murder
that
mystery that Christopher Reeve?
It was an Agatha Christie based murder mystery, wasn't it?
Might have been. God damn it! What the fuck was the name? It's like right on the tip of my tongue. Somebody is gonna like remember it in a second. No, what I was gonna say. So yeah, so I don't know. Like some of those other actors, like I said, I could totally see Jeff Bridges or William Hurt or somebody like that being Elliot Ness in this.
Yeah.
And I'm not shitting on Kevin Costner. I'm just saying that Kevin Costner is always just kind of like a little bit. He always comes across as like a little bit wooden. He's good in this, but. You know, given his limitations, he was just kind of like a little bit wooden. Now, obviously, Robert De Niro was the first choice for Al Capone, so happily he was able to do it. But here's the funny thing. This is a story that I found on Wikipedia when I was like researching this movie. They were like, okay, well, we want Robert De Niro. But they didn't know if they could get him because he had like a time conflict with like some other shit that he was working on. So they said, okay, well, we have a backup plan. If we can't get Robert De Niro, then we'll get Bob Hoskins, which also would have been good, although he's a Brit, but I think he can do like an okay American accent because he was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I think he did an American accent in that. So, so they said, okay, well, Bob Hoskins, we'll have him as a backup. Now, when they said that they could have Robert De Niro to do it, they actually sent Brian De Palma, I think, sent Bob Hoskins his fee, like $200,000, which must be nice, and like a thank you note. And then Bob Hoskins calls him up and says, "Hey, are there any other movies you don't want me to be in?" Like, I just got $200,000 for doing fuck all, just because he was like the backup. But you know what I mean. They also said that had neither of them been able to do it, then Gene Hackman could have done it, or maybe Marlon Brando. So, yeah, I could see that. But honestly, I can't really see De Niro. I can't really see anyone but De Niro like playing Al Capone in this. Like I said, even though he's not in it a great deal, he really like kind of embodies, like he gained weight. He was like, they said that he was really worried about, oh, my face isn't round enough, like, because he wanted to look like Al Capone too, so he insisted that he's like, I have to gain all this weight and all this other kind of stuff. And he like really, I think he did a good job at this.
They didn't call him Big Al for nothing. He was big.
He was a big dude.
Pretty big dude, but he was also pudgy. Especially he was eating good when he made
I mean, I wouldn't call him fat, but he definitely was pudgy. He was pudgy.
And like almost kind of.
And he had a very pudgy, round face.
Kind of like a smaller version of the dude that played Kingpin. He was. He wasn't that big, I don't think, in terms of height, but. Yeah,
because that dude is
that dude's
like
fucking really big.
That dude's enormous.
Yeah,
Vincent D'Onofrio.
I'm not sure. Capone actually reached 6 feet. I think he was under 6 feet. But
yeah, I thought he was shorter.
I think he might have been 5'10", but he just was a big meaty guy. 5'10".
Death Trap. Thank you.
Yeah, Death Trap.
That's what it was. I saw that a million times, like back on cable.
Not a bad movie.
It's actually I remember really liking it.
Yeah, and it's paranormal. Dude's got fucking psychokinetic abilities. He's basically like a Sith.
That's another one we should do.
He can fucking I wouldn't mind having that one.
I would say that was another movie. Then these are kind of like other unexplored movies that I used to watch a lot on cable back in the old days, like back in the early 80s. And Death Trap was one of them. And what was the one with Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn and Burgess Meredith? And Burgess Meredith had a snake named Esme. And it was a murder mystery. What the fuck was the name of that shit? I saw that like a million times. And it was like right around the time that Death Trap came out. Man, I used to love that movie.
There's another one from that time I've been wanting to see again. Was Being There. Peter Sellers. That's a fucking...
That's on HBO Max. I keep telling you. I put it in...
I want a copy of that bitch.
I put it in the Patreon poll, like for the next...
Is anybody voting for it?
I don't know, because the poll for next week doesn't go up until Friday.
Yeah.
The poll for this week had already done, and it's misery.
It's got all that secret society stuff, you know,
Being There,
Bilderbergers, and with
Being There
a slightly paranormal, I guess.
Foul Play, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Foul Play, that's the name of it. I saw that one a million times. I think that was kind of one of the only movies, well, maybe other than the European, like the vacation and European vacation movies, that didn't make me want to punch Chevy Chase. Although Fletch was good too.
Another one I want to see from around that time was a Peter Sellers movie. It's called The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu.
Oh, I remember that one.
And I'm not sure it would fly today because he's dressed as a Chinese guy, but it's not.
Christopher
negative.
Lee played Fu Manchu also in probably the worst movie I've ever seen.
It's a story of a man searching for TRT. Okay, trying to get his mojo back, but the
Tom
mystical
has to
way.
force TRT into every single.
Remember, he tries to get younger.
I was a kid the last time I saw that movie. I absolutely do not.
The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu was
movie.
how to get his sexual prowess back. Okay, and
see, I'd forgotten
he was
that whole
wearing out.
angle.
Yeah, and he'd had some elixir vitae. It was something that he could make it. It'd get him, and it fucking reverses fucking aging a bit, kinda. He just there's makeup, but and then but I have to. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
I remember watching that movie because I was kind of like when I was a little kid. I would see a movie with a title like that and be like, ooh, it's going to be like a horror movie. And then, like, sometimes I would watch it and I'd be like, this isn't a horror movie. This is boring.
Dark comedy with hints of musical. Had parts of musical was in it, too. He did musical acts.
So probably when I was a little kid, I was just kind of like, what the fuck is this? I thought it was going to be scary.
Yeah. No. Wouldn't mind seeing the Pink Panther movies again. See if those were still funny.
Yeah, I remember seeing a bunch of those.
I remember
back
them
in
being
the
funny,
day, too.
but they may not be funny today.
Zach says, also, y'all forgot to bring up Ennio Morricone's music for this movie. Actually, yeah, the score in this is great.
Yeah.
It's a very, very, it's like a very epic, very Hollywood.
They actually played the score on fucking top 40 radio stations when this movie was out. Remember that?
I do not remember.
They had a certain edit. They had the fucking theme from the damn. I remember that they played that on the fucking radio.
They probably did.
Yeah, it's an Untouchables theme.
Like I said, this was a massive fucking movie.
It's a massive hit.
Well, yeah, it made like a shit ton of money. I think it was like the 6th highest grossing movie that year. Like I said, it got nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards, and it got like pretty much all good reviews. So
saw it when I was in high school, and everybody loved it.
Yeah, what he was talking about. Yep. Well, it's a real crowd pleaser. It's a crowd pleasing movie. Like I said, there's no moral ambiguity. It's very good versus evil. Everybody loves gangster movies, but it doesn't have, even though it's based on real historical stuff, like it just kind of does its own thing. So it kind of has character development. It has gore. It has violence. It has, it's just like a fun, I know it's kind of a weird thing to say because, it's people getting murdered and stuff, but it's an entertaining. It's just very entertaining, crowd pleasing movie. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like there was a lot of those in the 80s. Like, they really came out with a bunch of movies that kind of everybody would go see. Whether you were a teenager or whether you were, like, 80 years old. Like, everybody had to go see that shit.
Yeah. This was an era where a tentpole flick didn't have to be a superhero movie or something like Fast and the Furious where it was just explosions and cars. It could have a real story. It could be a period piece, and this is an excellent period piece. I mean, it's fucking awesome.
It really is. It's so fucking stylish.
And everybody would go see it. You're like, oh, we gotta
I feel like
that.
Every motherfucker went to see this movie. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody.
Yeah. It was like, on par with Indiana Jones or something. That's what kind of movie it was. I mean, everybody went to go see it.
And like I said, I had forgotten until we were watching it again how many iconic lines came from this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like kind of, because I kind of judge a lot of things by Mystery Science Theater, like how many references they make to like other movies, and they've made a fuck ton of references to this movie. Yeah. And a lot of the references I had forgotten were from this movie because I hadn't seen it. So
it's basically like an action adventure version of The Godfather. It's a gangster movie, but more from the police point of view. Not as intrigue based as, say, like The Godfather. More action, adventure, mythology about trying to get something done and failing and then making a comeback and trying to win. And it's like that.
It's a lot more
very fast-paced.
It's a lot more streamlined.
Fast-paced.
I feel like The Godfather and those are more like these epic kind of like with all these subplots and characters and stuff.
Yeah, and you're savoring it as it's happening. It's not like that. This is almost more like an action adventure movie.
Yeah, but with gangsters.
But with gangsters, and it's just fucking looks and sounds and the edit and just De Palma is fucking slamming. Do this. And,
I mean,
he's
so many
taking
good
you back
fucking
into the
movies, man.
30s. You believe you're there. All the way down to the paint. Big, thick, fucking lead-based paint that looked like shit that they had back then. I remember.
Yeah.
The fucking architecture. Because, Detroit was filled with that shit. And I lived in some apartments that fucking was painted with that crap. It was just kind of thick paint that was kind of... The colors were muted, but it kind of had a weird gloss to it. And you'd see paint chips where they were just painting over the same paint chips all the time. It's just the way everything looked. And the cars... the guns were accurate up until a certain point, but the average person wouldn't notice. The clothes, all right? I was watching that shit and I was going, yeah, I remember before synthetic materials had taken over, because this is all Giorgio Armani stuff, and they're using real fur, real heavy horsehide and real leathers, real tweeds and brocades and stuff. Stuff that was based in wool and 100% cotton.
They must have been sweating their balls off.
Well, it was cold. I think it looked like it was partially cold. Wool, shit like sealskin. You were looking at fucking, what was that shit? Camel? What do they call it? Camel hair? Not camel hair, but it was like a beige material. I used to call it camel. But I don't remember what it was made out of. But they were just all natural materials. This shit fucking cost a shit ton of money now. It was fairly expensive back then. But the clothes, the clothing was fucking fantastic. The women clothing too, real silk.
I just saw this bit from Wikipedia. That says Robert De Niro had one extra scene written for his character. He contacted Capone's original tailors to have identical suits and silk underwear made for him. He wanted to get in the whole. He
wanted to feel like he was Capone.
He wanted to feel like I wanted to be in the silk boxers whatever. Al Capone.
People don't know, people don't realize today, because if you go through old vintage clothing places like we used to go through back like in the 80s, you would find stuff from the 30s and 40s sometimes. Leather jackets that still existed. I have a 1940s World War II naval officer's black dress coat with the big fucking... And it's from... The date on the inside is 1942. Nothing like that could be made today. And it feels like it weighs fucking 6 pounds. It's fucking heavy as shit. People don't realize even middle of the road, middle rung clothing were superior to anything you could buy today. They were just fucking...
Well, everything was kind of made to last.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, they make everything more cheaply.
Yeah, and it's gone in a year.
Because you have to replace it quicker.
No, you could get leather boots and shoes that would last decades. I still have a pair of Matterhorn Army boots that were issued to me extreme cold weather when I was in Korea. I still have them, and they're still usable. And there's almost nothing gone on the tread. And I did service with them. They're 30 years old now. Well, the stuff back in the 1930s was just like that. It just lasted forever. No planned obsolescence in the clothing. Shit, fucking.
Yeah, I don't think that concept actually came around until later on.
No, everything was built to last, and it did. And it lasted longer than synthetic materials.
Well, and the culture didn't move as quickly either, where it was just kind of like a thing where nowadays it's like, oh, we're wearing this, and then next year it's like, oh, you're still wearing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's that kind
And some of that stuff was fucking real water resistant. You wouldn't think of it, but they'd spray it with Scotch Guards and oil. They'd oil things like coats, and fucking rain would hit it and just slide right off of it. Never go through it. It'd be in pouring rain and fucking stay dry.
Zach says, Tom's right. It's sad that the only movies that get the green light anymore are major superhero blockbusters. Yeah. Everything else is micro-budget indies you never hear of. And it's like actors go to the tent poles to get paid and then go to the indies to actually act.
Yeah.
Which I think is why so many stars have jumped ship to TV these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, and I've seen some good tentpole movies, but that's why I kind of try to make an effort to find...
Series.
Series and also indie, particularly horror movies. Because that's kind of where the action is, man. That's where all the good shit is.
What sucks is that there isn't enough indie sci-fi in the because it's expensive, in the realm of say Star Wars and Star Trek. Nothing new original coming. I mean, the last thing that I saw that I thought was super original, and it was along that line, would have been Hunter Prey. Didn't I say there was a sequel to Hunter Prey?
You should probably look more because there's like a lot of indie sci-fi.
Yeah,
I don't really go more that much into it because I'm not super into sci-fi. I'm more into horror, and there's so much like good indie horror
never see it.
that it's like I'll never live long enough to watch it all. But sci-fi, that's up there too. There's a lot of really good shit. You just gotta look for it. That's all. Yeah. So I don't really want to be like. Because I know there's like some people's like, oh, nothing good comes out and stuff. I'm like, that's bullshit. There's tons of good shit everywhere. It's just that you have to look for it. That's all.
Hunter Prey was an unofficial sequel to Enemy Mine. That's what it was. We saw a Blu-ray version of Enemy Mine, and that motherfucker looked fantastic.
Yeah, because we just reviewed it. Not too long
that's what it
was.
A
few months ago.
Yeah, those are Enemy Mine and Hunter Prey are great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did them both the same week, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
I thought that maybe there was some kind of sequel to Hunter Prey coming, but I don't think so.
Yeah. All right, so I know we mostly talked about the Untouchables.
Yeah, and lasagna's done, probably.
Oh, yeah, so shit. We got a lasagna in the oven. Yeah, all right, so thanks, everybody, for dropping by today. Now, remember, tomorrow is the main show, and we're doing, like, another serial killer case. We're talking about the acid bath murder, which I've been wanting to do this for, like, a really long time. I read a book about this motherfucker, like, when I was a kid, and I was just like, oh, that's fucked up. But, yeah, so we're going to do a show about that tomorrow night, so hopefully you guys will stop by and hang out with us. So thanks for coming by today, and we will see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.